Hi guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be discussing a little bit about the music staff, the bar lines, and the final bar line. Before we begin, can you tell me the definition or what is a music staff? So the music staff is where notes and rests are written. It has 5 lines and 4 spaces. Okay, so what are the bar lines? Bar lines divide the music staff into measures. And what is the final bar line? The final bar line indicates the end of the piece. You'll also notice that the bar line and the final bar line look similar. One big difference that they have is the final bar line isn't just one thin line, it's also a very thick black line next to it. Whenever you see that symbol, the final bar line, it's over. That's the end of the piece. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at 1.4 Delightful. Now, this is going to help us understand music notation from music staff, bar lines, final bar line, the quarter note, and the quarter rest. So you'll also notice that your quarter notes aren't all the same, at least for the violin. Now, what I'm looking at is specifically the note head and the stem. Okay, depending on where the note head is going to tell us on the staff what pitch you're playing. So for the violin, viola, cello, and bass, you all have a different spot for where your open D string is. Now you notice I said D string, D, because in your note head it says D. Now that's not normally what happens in music notation. This is just for the beginner's part. And this is just giving you a guide or a help out to let you know and remind you that this is the spot for your open D string, okay? Or playing a D note or pitch. So what we're looking at now is not just where it's placed, but where is placed on the staff. Is it on the line or in the space? So you'll see it either written with the stem going down or up. That's based on if the note head is on the 3rd line, that's the middle line, or lower, the stem goes up. If the note head is on the 3rd line or higher, the stem goes down. And what side of the note head matters as well. Note stem is up on the right side when it's when the stem's going up, and then the note head stem is going down on the left side when the note head's above the 3rd line and the stem's going down. So there you have it for the notes. Now, how can we tell when a note head is on the line? Is when you can see clearly the line, the bar line, or the music staff line going through it all the way from the middle on both sides. You can tell when the note head is on a space when you see both of those music staff lines below or above the note head. Now, what you'll also notice is violins, your stem is going up and your note head is in a space. Now, you may think, no, it's on a line. No. It's on a space right below the very first line, okay? Remember we said that there were 5 lines and 4 spaces. That's technically correct, but there's other spaces on the opposite sides as well. The space above the 5th line, the very top line, and the space below the 1st line. Now, whenever you see that note head placed on the very bottom space below the 1st line, violins, that's your indicator to play an open D, all right? Now, how long you hold that D for, how you play it, is based on the symbol, the quarter note, with that stem and the note head being filled in. Now, you'll also notice that your violas, you have your note head in a space. It's actually on the 3rd space. We're going to count 1, 2, 3. 3rd space from the bottom, and your stem is going down. Now, whenever you see that note head in the space, that's telling you to play your open D string. Basses and cellos, you are lucky. You have the same spot for your open D string. That's going to be the middle line, or the 3rd line from the bottom, 1, 2, 3. You'll know that it's on the line because you have the music staff line going right through the note head on either side of it. Okay? So that's going to be your open D string. So now we're looking at 1.4 Delightful, looking at the set of quarter notes and quarter rests, because we don't just have the letter names, we have the actual symbols or music notation. Take a moment to look at that, and then see if you can tell me or answer the questions in a second. So, we have to identify the quarter notes and quarter rests at 1.4 Delightful. Here they are. The very first measure, we should have 3 Ds or 3 quarter notes and then a quarter rest. So quarter note, quarter note, quarter note, rest. Then a bar line to the next measure. We should have a quarter note, a quarter rest, a quarter note, quarter rest, another bar line to finish that measure. Go into the third measure, and we have quarter note, quarter note, quarter note, quarter rest, a bar line, and then going to the very last measure. Reason why we know that is because of the final bar line, and we have in that measure quarter note, rest, quarter rest, quarter note, quarter rest. You'll notice too that the quarter rests don't have any pitch on them. That's probably because we don't make a sound, so there's no requirement for us to make a pitch. You'll also notice that there are no specific spots, whether it's on a space or a line, for quarter rests. They're just rests, and it doesn't matter whether it's in a line or a space. It's just going to be always in the same spot since there's no pitch relation to that rest. Now there is a rhythmic relation to it, which is why it's just placed in a specific spot horizontally within the measure, but not vertically within the music staff. And what is a quarter rest? Well, a quarter note is the symbol that tells us to play something for one beat or make sound, whereas the quarter rest tells us to be silent for that one beat. They're both equal to one beat of some type of musical reference, whether it be making sound or being quiet. Now, knowing that each symbol, whether it be a quarter note or a quarter rest, gets one beat, each measure then has how many beats total? You should have 4 beats per measure. You'll also notice that there's a little word above the very first measure, and it says P-I-Z-Z. It's an abbreviation for the word pizzicato. So if you remember from the earlier videos, pizzicato means the Italian word for plucking, all right? So you'll notice that this piece, or this exercise, is indicating for you to play pizzicato, not with a bow. And you'll see that pretty often in your music as we get to a more advanced level. So you'll sometimes pluck even though you already know how to use a bow, because that's required based on what the composer wanted. So sometimes you'll have an entire piece of pizzicato. Sometimes you'll play pizzicato just a few times within the piece while going back to bow. And when we call that, it's called arco, but we never see it unless we were playing pizzicato earlier. And sometimes you just have pizzicato for like the very last 2 beats of a song or a piece of music, just to have some subtlety to the piece. Now, we've already gone over how to count this stuff and singing them on 1.3, 1.2, and 1.1. I went backwards there. But you know how this works already. You've kind of just had a taste of it without actually reading the music notation. So let's try it now with our metronome. And I'm going to set it at, you guessed it, 60 beats per minute. That's what I like to do. So I'm going to set it at 60 beats per minute, and I want to sing the note head name, or the note name. In this case, we're just going to play one pitch, the D, or your open D string. So don't play just yet. Let's get started with our metronome, and I'll count you off. Sing the note name, and be quiet when you get to a rest. 1, 2, 3, 4. D, 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 D. All right, so you should have sang it exactly like you would have done it if it was just letters, because that's what we're kind of practicing or working towards understanding. So just like we did earlier, we did the singing on the beat whenever you saw a quarter note, and when you saw a quarter rest, you were completely silent. Now, another thing we like to do in orchestra class or just music classes in general is count the rhythm. Remember that the rhythm is something that you play over a steady beat, which was the metronome here. So we're playing a rhythm even though it's with the beat. It's still a rhythm. And there's sometimes that you play that rhythm and sometimes you don't, hence the quarter notes and the quarter rests. So we're going to count the beats in those measures, meaning that when you have a quarter note, you're going to count the number of the beat that it earned within that measure, and then you're going to stay silent on a rest still. So if you look at just measure 1, before we actually give this a try, you'll see that measure 1 has beat 1, quarter note, beat 2, quarter note, beat 3, quarter note, and beat 4 is a rest. Now, even though it probably doesn't say a 4 under your quarter rest, it's still a rest and it's still beat 4. That means that there's still 4 beats in there. You just don't say it out loud because you're supposed to be silent. So let's give this a shot. I'm going to give you a second to kind of look it over. Just pause the video and then we'll try it together. All right, so you should be back. You've had a chance to look it over. Here's my metronome at 60 beats per minute. And we're going to get started. We're going to count the numbers, not sing the note names. So I'm going to count you off 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the count off into singing 1.4. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 3. And that's it. Now it's time to actually play your instrument.